That was the worst. Don't use that. Every brewer in history is going to disown me. If any other brewer saw me doing this right now, they'd be like, what the f is he doing in there? Just pull the string.
So I grew up in Verona, New Jersey. I played drums since as long as I can remember. That's where I met my partner, the other Ron.
I grew up in Lafayette, New Jersey, so up in Sussex County. Played music up there. That was kind of our, what we did for fun. We had basically, a million little bands in our dumb little high school, and we would just go play at our local Elks Lodge and being really bad and loud. We started to play with some more bands from a little bit more out of town, and that's how I ended up meeting Ron.
I literally tapped it, it cracked, and then I just grabbed the whole thing and pulled, and it just pulled off, or it pulled right off. So we just got to put, so we just got the new hose.
That's not gonna hold it.
It was doing fine the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was making coffee, doing annoying pour-overs at my old job with a coworker, and we talked about it one time. We were like, we should make beer. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I texted Ron, we're making some beer, what do you want in? And he was like, let's do it.
We started brewing together in 2018-ish. It was all at his house. He had a garage. His wife was kind enough to let us take it all over.
We couldn't fit a car in there, so we filled it with, refrigerators and fermenters and all that. And
we set a schedule of like every week we're brewing a beer, especially with COVID. When that hit, as difficult as COVID was for the world, it sort of benefited us because we were working from home. We had time to kill, so we were able to just, all right, let's spend a Saturday afternoon brewing a beer and do it every week and try a beer over and over again, over and over, just iterate on it until we have it absolutely perfect.
We did that for about 7 or 8 years. We came here.
Everything ramped up and we had this goal in mind and we knew we'd always want to get here, but it was never clear how. We built a website that let people in the area go on our website and see some of the beers that we were making. And then we eventually started canning some of those beers, and we would probably get 20 cans in a run. Like we were making one 6-still keg of beer at a time.
We ended up building this little community, and we're like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, we should definitely consider this. And a lot of those people still come here now, which is, and when I don't know them, it's even more exciting. Like, they're like, oh, I used to pick up in your garage. Like, oh man, that kicks ass. Thank you for that. And it's very humbling. We looked at a couple different places that didn't pan out, but the town of Morris Plains was really, really welcoming and really helpful. We had heard about, a lot of nightmare stories about rezoning and what all that goes into. But we blew through that in like a month.
This building before we moved in was a tile store. It was a lot of work to get it all cleaned out. It was tile samples all over the place on the floor and wall. Every like 3 square feet was a different tile sample. So I'm very fortunate. My dad does a lot of carpentry stuff, has always done woodworking and whatever. So he was able to help us out with accomplishing some of the work in here.
He built the wood portion underneath the bar, the concrete on the top. We did all together. But yeah, I mean, he did a lot of really, really great work here, and it was a huge help. We probably wouldn't have been able to do it without him. My dad is a plumber, and he was a huge help as well. He did all the plumbing in the brew house. He's done a couple other breweries nearby as well, which was kind of nice. So he had a little bit of knowledge about it. Both of our dads are named Ron. I've never met another Ron in my life for the most part, and now I'm surrounded by them. My dad's Ron, Ron's dad's Ron, Ron is Ron, I'm Ron. It's a lot of Rons.
I do graphic design for a living. I have my own company on the side that does that kind of stuff for small businesses. And anybody who's ever worked in graphic design will tell you that when you get to do projects for yourself, one, it can be tough because you kind of stop thinking about what you like and just what other people like all the time. You're just constantly trying to please a client. But two, when you do finally get to do something for yourself, it's so liberating because nobody's gonna take the thing that you made and make it worse.
When we talk about what we want for a label for a certain beer, Ron will say, what do you see? When I'll just say a color or a image or just a thought just that pops into my head. Clint, it's a New England IPA with El Dorado and some other really great hops, but it's everything green popped into my head immediately. I was like, I can just see the color green when I'm drinking that beer.
The logo has gone through many, many iterations, so it's been kind of cool to hear people ask about it. What does it mean? Where'd you get that?
Autodidact, a person who has learned a subject without the benefit of a teacher or formal education. I am an autodidact when it comes to brewing.
Very quickly, we wanted to center a lot of things around music. We're just kind of looking through track lists for different bands.
You know, we grew up playing in bands and stuff like that, which always was like a huge part. Okay, we're starting a new band. What are we gonna call it? And it was always hard to find just the right name. And it always led back to some song or a band or whatever. And so we were looking through, doing the same exercise, but in our early 30s, and trying to figure out what we could call it. And there's a band called Between the Buried and Me. Their second album's called Alaska, and the 10th song on it's called Autodidact. We're like, what does that word even mean? It's a cool word, and the song's awesome. What does the word mean? And then we looked it up, and it means self-taught. We're like, book it. That's what we're calling it. So that's what we did, and we decided that we had to put the definition and the pronunciation up on the wall behind the taps, because it's, you know, people add audiodidact, autodidactic.
It's like autodidactic, because I knew what autodidactic was, and you can, you know, extrapolate it from that, but it's probably confusing for some people, but I think it's a really great name, and those that do know are in the know.
Most of the time when I call people and I have to give them my email or whatever, I have to spell the whole name. I'm hoping to one day get to the point where I could just give them my email address, and they would just be like, oh yeah, I've heard of you guys. I know how to spell it already.
Every brewery you go to, it's in the back of an old warehouse, or it's behind an H&R Block, or it's, you know, it's just in the dumbest area you could possibly get to. So how do you take the person that's going out of their way to come try your beer and be in your place and make them feel A, comfortable, B, clean, and have an experience that they want to talk about, that they want to have again? We were like, oh, white walls, very clean, pretty, with, you know, black ceiling. You know, we are metal guys, so we had to do something black in here. Flowers outside, make sure our outdoor space is kind of reminiscent of just like expanding the indoor space a touch. So, but then we added a nice pop of color in there as well. But in here, it's green, alive, bright.
Almost the entire space was just iterative as we went along. The overarching theme is just we wanted to embrace nature a lot.
The plants was a collective desire, but executed by my wife, Gina. But I want it to feel alive. Staff, to beer, to plants.
Hopefully every beer that you have from here is trying to say its own thing, that the recipes are not just thrown together for no reason, that there's some purpose behind it. The idea that the beer is the presentation itself. It's not the sum of its parts, it is its own thing.
You know, it really goes back to that music thing of just creating something and then sharing it with people and seeing the reaction, seeing people moshing or people jumping or stage diving or singing along. You always want to feel like that. It feels so good, you know, and being able to create a liquid that people can consume and enjoy and making it, like I said, an experience. I'm lucky to get the opportunity to do it. You know, for the most part, the brewery scene is basically a graduated music scene. We have pushed to be surrounded by some really, really wonderful breweries, and every collaboration is the most humbling learning experience you could ever do.
Great part about breweries is that if you speak to any of them and they're willing to share, which most of them are, if they're willing to share their process and how they work, you very quickly find out that they're all very different. There's some similarities across them, but everybody's brew house is different, everybody's setup. I think my favorite piece of advice I got was from Tim, one of the owners of Twin Elephant. We were just picking his brain about writing a business plan and you know, what would you guys do different? What would you do this? He's like, here's what you're gonna do. Write up a normal business plan, talk about how you're gonna distro, figure out what you're gonna do in your tap room, and then once you have it all ready, just throw it all out because it's gonna be totally different when you open. And I was like, okay, cool.
We have another brewer that opened up a brewery nearby called Oak Flower Brewing. He's a friend of ours. He said something that has kind of stuck with me. Brewing is all jazz, so you're just kind of on the fly, figuring it out as you go.
Some of the bigger challenges are getting a good process down There's a lot of cleaning that goes into brewing. All of the tanks, the whole brew house, all of the kegs, everything is just clean, clean, clean all the time.
We really got to do a good job with that one then.
Yeah, I know. It still smells like sour in there.
It does. It's also got a like rim.
I'm going to pull everything out of that one again. It still looks fairly gnarly in there. I'm setting up the CIP cart. So this is a clean in place cart. I used PBW in this tank at about 180 degrees, 170. And what it's going to do is it's going to drain out into here. Cycle, there's a big ball on the inside that spins and cleans out the inside.
It is running a business. So the part that was easy for us was always making beer, and that part, you know, even if it is a long day, it still is something that we know really well. All of the other stuff about bringing consumers into your space, making sure they're having a good time, making sure that the beer is good, that everything's clean, that the place is presentable, that the music is nice, all of that stuff requires a lot of thought. You know, hopefully we do a pretty good job of it. Ronnie and I complement each other pretty well. He is relaxed and calm about most things. I'm the opposite of that.
I am an unorganized idiot. He's very organized.
There's like a yin and yang to it that works out pretty well. The way that we work together and how we balance each other has been really great. From a technical standpoint, Ronnie was always fascinated with the ingredients in a recipe and all of that, and while we do work together on it, he's sort of taken the lead on most of that.
I have these ideas and these thoughts and these beers in mind, and Ron got an engineer brain. He's very, very hyper focused on stuff like that, and I'm not.
I've always been fascinated with the process and with, you know, how can I shave a little time off of doing this piece of it, or how can I make it smoother so that there has to be less people involved or less hands on it.
We're still dear friends, but it's also business, so it's like, all right, here's what I'm thinking. He won't hesitate, and I've learned not to hesitate. Either of us will hesitate to say, no, f that, we're not doing that. That's terrible. Him and I are borderline married at this point. It's very, very comparable to a marriage. We talk all the time. Every idea we have, it's, you know, call me whenever.
We started with 6 beers on tap when we first opened, with the goal of obviously being 8.
So now we're coming out of the boil, running through here. It's coming through here, going in, comes out on the other side while there's cold water running through the other plates. They're going opposite sides, cooling off the beer, making its way in. So we like to go in around 68, 66, that range. So you see we're here at 68, that's hot as f. And then that's where we're introducing oxygen through an oxygen stone to just...
Oxygen lets the yeast party. So you can see a little bit here if you shine a light through it. There's the bubbles kind of moving through there. There's a stone inside of there that this oxygen line comes up through the stone and just pushes out tiny bubbles out of that stone. And that just aerates the beer.
Now we wait for that thing to fill up. It'll sit in there for a good 2 weeks and turn into beer.
People feel like they know us. It feels more valuable in terms of content, like they're hearing it.
They cling to it more.
Yeah, they're hearing it from us. It's not just like canned marketing responses or whatever. We're telling them about, you know, what we intended with a beer, or, you know, people want to hear from us what we think about it.
In the next year, we would like to expand our footprint where we are out in the world, where you can find our beer on tap. We're already, you know, making great strides there, which is awesome. After that, we want to be brewing more beer, getting more beer in cans and packaged for people to pick up here or potentially out at liquor stores.
Because we both played music, and because when we were younger we experienced going to shows and being in that community and feeling warm and welcome and having fun and embraced and safe, we wanted to create that environment. You know, adults, to us, we're old, we're out of that. I'm not playing music anymore. This is the closest thing to that community and that warmness that we thrived to find for life, so why not keep doing it?
You guys are killing it, dude. Anyone who is self-taught and can make beer this good, you're going places, dude. All of you. Keep rocking it, and I'll keep coming. Cheers.